Welcome to the Real Vintage Podcast with your host, Stephen Cox.
Man, we are back on the Real Vintage Podcast, and I am excited about this episode. We've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time, and we do appreciate you downloading the podcast, listening to it faithfully. Many of you are really good at responding. Like some of you, they kind of contact me through my social media, Twitter, Facebook, text messaging if they have my number. And sometimes we get a little funny, you know. I'll say some things. The last podcast we were talking about Jeeps and Broncos, and I said something about the Bronco reminds me of O.J. Simpson, and I got a lot of good feedback from that. And but it does. I think about that. But today I'm excited about having Lee back on. Lee will come on from time to time. He's my assistant here at the church. And Lee's a good friend, and he's a lover of old vintage NASCAR. Yes. And that is kind of where he and I have a bond that we did not actually know before we even started working together. And I don't know really where it started, but I think it was one day we were sitting at lunch and I was talking about NASCAR, or maybe he'd seen me post something about it. And then he just started spitting out all these facts and stuff and watching. He said, man, sometimes I'm driving to the church and I'm running a little bit late, so I'll throw on a NASCAR theme. And
that happened this morning, by the way.
So he has a love for the fast stuff.
Oh yes.
And so I do too. I love to hear those cars go by, especially when they put it on the NASCAR. They put it on the the announcers would go quiet and they'd put it on the, what's it called, where they'd hear the cars go by.
Oh man, it said crank it up.
Crank it up. Yeah.
That's right.
And that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Crank it up. I love that. So anyway, we're going to get the podcast started. Here we are still kind of in this pandemic type. I call it COVID craziness because we really don't know what to expect. We don't know what to believe. We don't know anything much. I know this. If I was watching the just a little bit of the opener of the baseball and Washington Nationals and the Yankees, mm-hmm. and they had Dr. Fauci out to pitch, and I'll tell you one thing, man, his accuracy is right on, spot on. I mean, in everything he does.
Oh boy, that was bad.
And what was really bad, I mean, the pitch was terrible, terrible. But then they had a picture of him up in the stands with his mask off. And you know, yeah, he's a rascal. And so anyway, but it is kind of crazy out there, you know, with all the different stuff going on. But I was thinking about, you know, we've used this opportunity to, I guess, kind of stay at home a little bit more. You know, there's places that I would go, but then I'm thinking, man, I don't want to wear a mask inside there, so I'll just stay at home. Yeah. And the more of these businesses that are going, not that I'm anti-mask. Those of you that are listening, I'm not anti-mask. I do have one in the glove compartment of my truck that I have worn one time, and I'm not going to lose my testimony over it. If I had to go into a place that required a mask, I would put one on, and I just would if it required it, and I needed to go there, like needed, not shopping, not anything, but I don't wear them. You know, I don't. And just don't think they do a whole lot of good in a lot of areas. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing people wearing, I'm like, how could that help you? Yeah. And so anyway, but that's neither here or there, and I'm not trying to throw my preference and opinions out there, but that's just how I feel about it. But the reason I stay at home is, man, we've got projects going on at the house. For instance, you know, we're putting a fence around a nice farm fence around our in-ground pool that we're about to get finished up. Got a side-by-side deer season coming up, and found a good deal on a Honda Pioneer 500, and man, we've been enjoying that. And it got me thinking, you know, one of my friends put out a tweet the other day saying, man, 90s kids, you know, they were, hey, Mom, I got a bloody nose, and Johnny knocked a baseball over in the neighbor's yard, and we had to fight the dog to get it. And Susie did this and wrecked on her bicycle, and here we are. We come in, it's at night, and you just go and turn on the Power Rangers and go to bed, And 90s kids ruled. 80s kids was, and that was me. Mama said, I don't want to see you till dark, basically in the summertime. Or grandma, and we'd go and spend all day. I remember BB guns. We'd literally play BB guns, like shooting stuff. And we just got into all kinds of things. And then it was dark. You'd go inside and drinking out of water spigots. I'm talking about rusty water spigots.
We still here.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. And I'm talking about there was no spreading anything. None. Like it was none. Like in the 80s, like if my mom would have found out that some kid had COVID, she probably would have told me to go out there and play with him. She felt sorry for him. We just, it's a different generation that we're raising. My son loves the outdoors. And sometimes you don't want to fling it on somebody, shove it on them, like sports. And you got to be careful, because then they grow up and they're like, man, my dad made me do it. I didn't want to do it. He loves football. He loves racing. He loves basketball. We're putting a nice pad of concrete out back with the pool where we can shoot baskets. I love basketball. And but kids nowadays don't have the outside love like we did 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. And Lee, you've got a lot of transition going on. You've had an interesting summer already, having to sell one home in the spring, and now you moved into a beautiful new home there in, I think it's in Reedville. Is that right?
It's kind of the Roebuck, Spartanburg, Pauline area. Yeah. So it's closer to the church than my old house used to be. Yep. So I'm probably 36, 37 minutes away, which isn't too bad. No. But we love it. We love the house. Still trying to unpack everything. You normally use your garage to park your car in. We're using it to put boxes and stuff.
Yeah, you do the first little bit.
That's a big adjustment.
Yeah, that's cool. And I've had the Lord's blessed us, and very thankful for that. And so we've had a great summer. It's like I said, every day's a new adventure during this time, but very thankful for what the Lord's done. And even through the podcast, man, we're doing some things today that we're not used to with our producer, Ken Everson, and some help from some of his friends who knows some of the, just the technology that we're able to do. And we're trying to advance that even here on the podcast. We are actually filming the podcast, so you can go on our YouTube channel, you can go on our Facebook page, and we'll be airing our podcast. And but we've got some exciting things today, because a lover of old vintage NASCAR. And Lee being a lover of old vintage NASCAR, we've just been talking about what would be our favorite race of all time. Now, we do have some favorite races. My favorite race was the 1998 Daytona 500. Yeah. And the one that Dale Earnhardt had waited all them years to win. Then I'm a big Bristol. I love Bristol Speedway, the Thunder Valley, and Dale Earnhardt was known to be the Intimidator and Ironhead, or whatever you want to call him. And he would put you in the wall, even toward the end of his life, or the end of his career and the end of his life. He would nudge you out of the way. Yep. And he did that to Terry Labonte. I love that race. I was listening to it on the radio. Wasn't watching it. I was listening to it on the radio, and remember where I was and what I was doing. And when Terry Labonte got his cage rattled, and then of course Earnhardt went on to win, and everybody booed him because they didn't like it, But it was great. And then this race probably is moving up the ladder as one of my favorite, and that is the 2001 Pepsi 400, where Dale Earnhardt had died in February, and his son Dale Jr. Has had a great career already in the Busch Series, and he's kind of a rookie, not quite a rookie. He's been in it a couple years, but he's coming on the scene at just a few months after his dad had died. And so right before this, Lee, what was your thoughts about the Pepsi 400?
You think growing up a NASCAR fan, it's a little bit different than being a normal sports fan. If you pull for a football team, you have a team that you pull for.
Yeah.
Basketball, you have a team. But NASCAR is different because you don't specifically pull for a team. You have your favorite driver.
Yeah.
So when Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed away, it would be like Notre Dame passing away. It would be like the Atlanta Braves passing away or the Clemson Tigers passing away. You're in mourning. And the thing about it is that, Earnhardt at this time, Dale Earnhardt Sr., he was 49 years old, but he was still at the top of his game. He finished second in the points the year before. Yeah. So as an Earnhardt fan, I'm looking forward to 2001 thinking there's a possibility he can win his 8th championship. Yeah. But then he's racing good in this race, and he's at the top of his game, and just like that, it's all taken away. And at that time, you're thinking, okay, what do I do now? Do I keep watching NASCAR? Yeah. Am I still going to be a NASCAR fan because my guy, my team is gone? And at that time, automatically you're going to pull for Junior. But at that point, Junior hadn't been doing good.
Yeah, I mean, he's just still basically a kid. But
this race, it makes a big difference.
It does.
It makes a big difference.
So we're at the Pepsi 400 here at Daytona Speedway in 2001, July, and a big race. You can look at the stands. And at this time, they're in a caution. So we've kind of fast-forwarded all the way to about the last 7 laps. And the leader is the Valvoline car, which is Johnny Benson. And he didn't have any wins in his career. He was a decent racer. I remember him more in the 26 Cheerios car.
Yes.
But the Valvoline car to me stood out to be Mark Martin.
Exactly.
But for some reason, he's not in the Valvoline car for this one. Had a different sponsor. And then we have second back here. We have, I think, the 33 car, which was Dave Blaney. Mm-hmm. And right?
Yeah. Dave Blaney's Ryan Blaney's dad.
And Ryan Blaney's he's number 12 today, racing. And then behind him was, I can't remember, but I know Junior's about 6th or 7th in the race right now with 7 laps to go. And Junior, I think this is where Junior, everybody kind of pays attention to his super speedway drafting.
Yes. Because that was what Dale Earnhardt Sr. was always known for. I think it shows here later on that Dale Earnhardt Sr. had won 34 races in his career total at Daytona International Speedway.
So he's currently 6th place.
Yes.
He had led already in this race, had a really fast car. His sponsor for this, obviously, though we don't approve, but was Budweiser. But the main sponsor of this race was the All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
The
All-Star game, baseball.
MLB All-Star game, and that's why it's white. Had a cool baseball helmet on. But that thing was a rocket ship that day, man.
It was, because if you just hear Tony Eury Sr. right there as crew chief, he's concerned, even though he has a fast car, most of the race, he's been up front in the lead. This is the first time he's been back in the pack.
Yeah, so what's he going to do?
He doesn't think he's going to win the race.
Right.
Tony Eury Jr. Sr. actually says this. He says, the best man is just not going to be able to win the race today.
Yeah.
Because
you got to remember, 7 laps.
Yes.
Okay, so then by the time it goes green, maybe 5 laps. Mm-hmm. It takes a lap to even get really up to speed in these restrictor plate racing. And they're giving a Daytona fact here. Dale Earnhardt had won 34 races at that track.
Yes.
That's including his Dale, like at the Busch Clashes.
Busch Clash, Twin 125.
Yeah,
yep.
The IROC. I think he'd won a couple there. And then, of course, he'd won some Pepsi 400s, I think, or something. But then he won a Daytona 500 in 98. And so here we are. We're about to get on this. I just seen John Andretti. John Andretti died last year.
Yeah.
Died. It wasn't racing though. It was.
No, I think it might have had cancer, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that.
Yeah, he was the 43 car.
That's
there.
something that's interesting about this. You watch this race, and even Benny Parsons is gone now.
Yeah, and Benny Parsons.
It seemed like yesterday. It seems like yesterday, but they're not even around now.
Next year will be 20 years, man.
It will.
20 years since this race.
It will.
Which is unbelievable. So here they are. They're going to, looks like the lights on the pace cars turned off and going down pit road. So here they go to the green, and they're going to be taking 6 laps to go by the time they go across. And we've got a few in the top. But now watch Bobby Labonte. He's the number 18 Interstate Batteries car. He was the champion the year before. And he's going to kind of get up there. Tony Stewart's going to get up there and scrap a little bit. And Bobby Labonte's that green car down at the bottom of your screen. Jeremy Mayfield right in front. And,
did you hear Benny Parsons there? He's almost disappointed. It seems like they're pulling for Junior too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everybody's a Junior fan that day.
They are.
So Junior is up there. He's behind the 12 car, Penske car, and
he passed 2 cars in one corner right there.
Corner.
You see that?
That's
a rocket ship.
It is.
Man.
Yeah, Daytona. So he's 4th now. So I mean, in one lap, he's already come from 6th to 4th, and you can hear the crowd. Listen to the crowd.
I've never seen a crowd like this.
No.
Never have.
And have not since then.
No.
It was like electricity.
Because I think certainly you and I being Earnhardt fans, it meant a lot to us, but it meant a lot to NASCAR too.
Man, this was because they're all still mourning, especially going back to the place where
I've
Earnhardt
talked to
died.
many people who've told me in the past that they didn't like Earnhardt, but it killed the sport. Not killed it, but it really hurt the sport when Earnhardt Sr. passed away because he meant a lot to the sport.
Oh, man. And there he is. Look at the crowd. They even...
I mean, that's impressive.
And boy, did he ever.
He didn't need much help either. He had a rocket ship.
I can't get it. So there goes Tony Stewart below the yellow line, and black flag for Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart, after the race, takes a reporter's microphone, slaps it out of his hand, and kicks it under a holler, and goes looking for the NASCAR officials. He got fined, by the way.
I'm sure. Oh, Tony Stewart, he was known for that.
Yeah, he was a racer for sure. Now you got Labonte and Tony Stewart back there behind Earnhardt. They're kind of battling, but then we see another car coming up.
You do. You have Michael Waltrip. I think he started maybe 12th from the restart. But as a fan right here, as you mentioned earlier, Bobby Labonte was a 2000 Winston Cup champion.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking he's a legitimate threat to pass Earnhardt right here. So you start getting a little nervous. You don't want him to lose it right now.
No.
Everything's going good so far. He's close.
Yeah. Michael Waltrip, he's the teammate of Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 15 DEI car. Napa sponsored, and he's coming, and he's a great restrictor plate racer as well. Them DEI cars were tough.
They were tough, and if you have any memory of NASCAR, the 2001 Daytona 500, Michael Waltrip won the race that Dale Earnhardt Sr. was killed in.
Never got to celebrate.
He never did. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was second. And so you have Junior leading right here, and is Waltrip going to make it to second?
And, of course, Dale Earnhardt Sr. had pushed both of them up to the front.
He had.
It was a great trio.
I think his desire was to have a 1-2-3 finish.
Oh, man.
And that was...
Yeah. So 3 to go, 2 to go almost. We got it's getting real exciting. There's one car in between Dale Jr. and his teammate Michael Waltrip, and that is the Labonte car, who was the previous champion, and he was tough that day too.
He was.
And but Michael Waltrip had a rocket ship too, man.
He did.
And that Napa car, Napa know-how, Napa power. Look at that.
And that was a beautiful sight to see, to have his teammate right behind him with 2 laps to go.
Because he's going to help him.
We didn't know. You hoped at that point. You hoped. Is he going to go for the win? But he knew that Junior helped him win the 2001 Daytona 500.
He's going to block for him and help him. 2 to go. And they come across the stripe. It'll be 1.
He's so strong.
I mean, look at him pull. They're coming up on a lap car, but he just had a rocket ship. Both of them did. You just wasn't going to do anything with them.
No.
And Labonte had a good car, but it just wasn't. The final lap. Man, these are the days. I'm telling you, these were the days that NASCAR was thriving.
It was. It was
just thriving.
For the first few years. Even, of course, it hurt when Earnhardt passed away, but it seemed for a few years after that, it just seemed to be going pretty good.
Even like 2003, 2004.
I think 2005, the car tomorrow made it. Things started to seem to go down.
It did.
After that.
It was changing.
Yeah.
Listen to that crowd.
Look at the flashbulbs.
Goodness gracious alive. You don't even have to be a NASCAR fan. I mean, Benny Parsons is cheering.
Yes. Yes.
Very nice. Junior, you happy?
And you'll hear Junior in the car here in just a minute.
I don't think there's anybody here that didn't want to see that.
And that's a great
celebrate.
statement right there.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to see that.
Everybody went.
Emotional favorite.
If they couldn't win the race, every other driver wanted to see Junior win that race.
We'll start fading out a little bit here and talking just a little bit about the overall. But I want you to continue to look at the emotion because, the team, they're all crying. You can see people from all different teams coming, Napa and Bud, which was the two partners, of the sponsors, rather, of the teammates. Junior's still hollering, and cars are pulling up. That's how in NASCAR they kind of go over and high-five them. They pull up beside your door and give you a thumbs up. Junior's in there just having a time.
Did you ever think about this if you watch this race? Did he ever make it to victory lane?
I think they had victory lane on the infield.
I think they had it in the infield, yeah.
On the little part there. And, of course, that's his crew chief, Tony Uri Sr.
He's excited.
And
he's emotional.
He's emotional. And, of course, you can imagine, I don't know how these guys are not even, that crowd is just, it literally is like an NFL game, except times it by like two.
Daytona at that time, I think they seated 150, 200,000. There's no stadium in the world.
One of the biggest sporting events.
Exactly. And they've added on since then.
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have added on. Yes. But NASCAR's hurt themselves in recent days.
Yes.
But I still follow the sport. But look at Junior. He's out there on top of his car, all the flash bulbs. Michael Waltrip pulls up beside him in the Napa car, and there they are. Chocolate Myers, which was from the Good Wrench team. That was Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s great friend. They're out there. Good Wrench is out there, which is pretty cool. Man, I see all kinds of teams out there, and this was literally bigger than any race that I can ever remember the celebration.
I'm the same way. The only one close was the 98 Daytona 500.
Yeah, well, they all came out and high-five. But, there wasn't that much. This is almost like an emotional excitement. Like they were happy for Earnhardt that day, and all of them came out in honor and respect.
It was a victory for NASCAR. This was. They needed this to move past the 2001 Daytona 500s, the first time being back since then. And this was kind of started the healing process of everything.
Look at that, embracing, and Waltrip didn't get to celebrate, but then he pushes his buddy to the top, and he kind of returned the favor. Again, these races bring back a lot of memories because I can take you to the spot where I was when I was watching the race.
Yes, me too.
And, like some of you guys that follow other sports that you can remember when someone cranked a home run over this, I can take you back to the 92, I think it was 91 rather, Braves game with the pitch.
Yes.
I can tell you where I was. I think it was the Pirates, right?
Sid Bream,
sliding in. Yeah, 92.
In LCS, yes.
And I don't follow baseball maybe like some, but I follow the Braves quite a bit and remember some of them great teams. But then like the NFL, I just remember some incredible games. Well, we feel that way, because some guys are like, well, NASCAR ain't a sport. Man, don't tell me it ain't a sport. I might jack you upside the jaw. I don't know. But it is a sport. It's a sport where things go really fast, and you've got to be – people don't realize the conditions some of these men are in to like that race a few weeks ago in Texas, 140 degrees in the – you stay 140 degrees in 3.5 hours of racing, you better be in some type of shape.
That's exactly right.
And taking some of the licks and the hits. They did go to victory lane, actually.
Well, there we go, finally.
It kind of answered that for us. So, winner's circle, they celebrate a little bit. And, man, what a great race. It just kind of solidified to me, that when we were talking about doing a old NASCAR race, we had to start out with something that maybe just triggered the emotion a little bit, because I remember he was just a kid. Yeah. Of course, Earnhardt Jr. now is retired and occasionally races in some of the Xfinity, but he's had a lot of concussions, a lot of health problems and things there. So I listened to his podcast. They're interesting because it shows the old. He brings in a lot of old NASCAR guys in and interviews them, and it kind of keeps you up to date on what's going on in the past, especially some behind-the-scenes stories and stuff like that. So, Lee, I'm glad we could share that today.
That's awesome.
I'm
awesome.
looking forward to that. Now we're going to transition. Got one announcement about our awesome August meetings. We don't have Wednesday night church on the month of August. We move it to Tuesday night, and we've done this now for 4 years, and we have a special preacher come in. It's almost like a month-long revival just on Tuesday nights, but the first Tuesday night in August, I think, is the 4th, and my dad's going to be coming in and preaching for us that night. We'll have some good singing, and my dad will do a great job. And then on the 11th, we have my friend Jake Potter will be preaching, and looking forward to that. And then the 18th is Brother Scott Gray, Pastor Scott Gray, and we're looking forward to him. He pastors a wonderful church in North Carolina. And then the 25th, we have a special speaker. We'll get all that lined up, and we have food trucks, and we got just fellowship. And man, it's a great time. And if there's ever been a more needed time for us to just, I guess you could say, really just focus on the Word of God and on Christ, and make a big deal out of that is right now.
Yes.
People need to turn their attention off of the media and off of the world and off of the things that are just gripping our attention. Sometimes it's causing people to fear. We need to just get back to sound doctrinal preaching and expository preaching, preaching that's going to help you.
Yes.
And singing and worship and fellowship.
Yes.
And get our eyes off of some of the other things that's kind of drawing our attention. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think the gospel is important right now, and I think we hear it many times. People hear the term gospel so much they become softened to it. They think, well, the gospel helped me when I got saved, and I'm going to heaven now, so I don't really think much else about it. But the gospel's more than just the moment you got saved. Right. The gospel reminds us of the richness that I have in Christ Jesus and the importance of my relationship with Him.
Yeah.
And you think about just the moment you get saved, the Holy Spirit of God becomes, your body becomes His earthly temple.
Oh, yeah.
At that point. So we're carrying the Holy Spirit of God around with us every single day. He's our comforter. He gives us joy. He gives us peace. And that's what this world needs right now. They need the gospel, and we need to share it with this world.
And the churches today need to take a stand.
Absolutely.
And we've done some things out of just maybe not knowing.
Yes.
And we did it for the safety of our people, and we did it for I even think sometimes for just respect for our government officials.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to believe them, and we want to maybe think that they're knowing what they're talking about, but here we are 5 months into this, and we're starting to see the evil undertone, the evil things that could be used as what we would term overreach and just flat out communism, socialism,
Absolutely. Whatever.
Yes. And it's sickening, and I hate it for some of our friends in other states that's going through. I'm literally going through some persecution where they're being threatened and being, hey, we'll shut you down, or we'll do this, or you can't sing in church, or you can't meet indoors. And some of the men, I'm thankful for this, they're actually taking a stand.
Yes, they are. Because
here's my thing, is we're starting to see, or actually not starting, we're seeing what the world looks like without the church.
Yes, yes.
You take the church 3 months, online only. Lost people are not generally just going to be seeking out a church on Sunday. The church is commanded to go.
That's right.
If we are not a standing influence in our community, I'm talking about a lighthouse, I'm talking about a beacon, a rock of Gibraltar, I'm talking about something that people's like, hey, I can go there and I'm going to hear a message about truth. And if we're not that, and all the churches had to disband for a while, I really believe we're seeing the repercussions of our churches just not having services. Yeah. And I've told our church this past Sunday, we cannot afford to do that again, regardless of what the government officials say, and regardless, I'm going to stick with my Bible. And if there's only 5 people that show up, there are 5 people that's going to hear. But I'm going to keep them doors open.
Amen. Because
I believe we need to be reaching people with the gospel, and not just inside our what we would call church building. I'm talking about outside.
Yes.
We've heard people say, well, we're not, the building is not the church. And I've heard that statement a lot in the last 5 months. And I realize what they're saying. We're the church. But hold on a second. I realize we are the church, but the church was a called out assembly.
Assembly is an important word.
And we have to assemble. That's what we are.
Yes.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there will I be in the midst.
Yes.
And I want God to be there. And I want sinners to be saved. And I feel like as a pastor, and you who has senior pastored for 6 years, and now you're assistant, our number one mission is to reach others with the gospel.
Yes.
And then to live out the gospel.
Yep.
And to just live it every day and reach people. It ain't just something we do on a Saturday or something we do on a Wednesday. It's something that we do every day.
It's our life.
And I want us to be mindful of that. And you radio listeners and you podcast listeners and those that's watching on video, we need to be more mindful of just reaching others, our neighbors, our friends, our family. One lady this past Sunday was upset after the service, not upset it in a bad way, but upset that we had to talk to her because she's concerned about her family. She said, what's going to happen to them if they're lost? And I wish more people were that way. I wish more people were moved to tears over the lost, loved ones in their family or their lost community. And this past Saturday, I was privileged the last 2 Saturdays to lead 2 young men to Christ.
Amen.
Below the age of 40. One named Benjamin, the other named Nicholas, in our community, and showing them the gospel. I'm talking about right here in the Bible Belt.
Yes.
And people need to hear the gospel. I want to challenge all of our podcast listeners. Maybe you can't remember the last time sharing the gospel with someone.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it's time we start. If you'd like more information about how or what to do, I'd love to hear from you.
It's something I often think about along those lines is this, and this convicts me just thinking about it. But when it comes to people who know me, the gospel should always be associated with me.
Right.
I should at some point shared the gospel with people who know me.
Yeah.
When they think about me on a first name, I'm Brother Lee Franklin. I'm from so and so. But here's what I want you to know about me. I believe the gospel, and I want to share the gospel with you.
I'm all about relationships.
Yes.
So sometimes you can't just the first time you meet someone.
No, you can't.
The gospel.
You can't. But
I mean, when I'm going out on purpose to do that,
yes.
absolutely. Everybody I come in contact with, you're going to hear it.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a gospel tract, and I'm going to try to witness to you. But someone, like I got a call this week from a lady from a distant state who follows our ministry, and she was asking me about how to witness to her brother.
Yeah.
And she said, I've done it before, but he cuts me off. And she said, I'm trying to look for an inroad and I gave her some counsel in that area. Though I'm not an expert, I gave her some encouragement and possibly some things that she was doing to, she was almost overdoing it. Mm-hmm. And I said, there needs to be something, but you understand we're not the Holy Spirit.
That's right. Yeah.
So we got to pray.
Yes.
First, we got to pray about everything.
Yes.
But, we also got to look for those opportunities where it's a God thing, what I call a divine appointment.
Yes.
And I'm talking about my plumber, my pool guy, my fence people, the people that my hunting buddies,
mm-hmm.
my NASCAR buddies. I'm talking about it. And you just come walking in saying, okay, who in here's going to heaven? They may look at you and say, that guy's a fanatic. Yeah. I don't care what he says. He bugs me. Or you can get in their life and their relationship, and you find out, hey, man, you like to hunt? Well, I do too. Let's go and talk and being a friend of sinners and sitting down with them and sharing the gospel. I think that's the most effective way.
You've heard the statement before many times. People don't know how much you know till they know how much you care.
That's it.
And I think that's important. I think that's the key is with because a lot of times family members are the hardest ones to witness to.
That's true.
So many times you have to, like you said, find that opportunity, find that just situation where you can share the gospel with them. But here's the thing: don't love them. Show them the love of Christ. Don't just tell them about Christ. Show them Christ in you.
Yeah, you can't be a Sunday only Christian.
Exactly.
And they'll read right through that.
They will.
And the one thing that stinks the most is a hypocrite.
Yes.
They just, why are you telling me? You ought to live it. Live the gospel every day.
Yes.
Live it, show it, and then reach people. Lee, I've enjoyed this.
Amen.
I've enjoyed getting to share some NASCAR moments and also just getting to maybe challenge some folks and talk to them about it. And this podcast has been a blessing to me. And I hope it's been a blessing to you. There's a bunch of podcasts. I could recommend some to you. Don't have time because there's only one real podcast. It's called the Real Vintage Podcast.